Hey everyone, I'm Joseph, your Web3 instructor. In this Moralis tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can build a dapp that lets you connect your wallet using RainbowKit. After that, we're going to use the Moralis API to get the transaction of that wallet. At the same time, we're going to use Moralis Streams that lets us listen to any blockchain event on an EVM chain. It can be a native transaction for a cryptocurrency wallet. It can be a smart contract event. It can be an NFT being minted and much more. We're going to store these Moralis streams using Firebase and the Moralis Firebase extension. So now let me show you how the application actually works. Here we can connect our wallet and choose MetaMask. And once you have connected your wallet, you can see the transaction on this left column, and we're displaying the time it happened, the block number it belongs to, the from and to address, and also the transaction hash, which we can copy and go to Etherscan and get even more information. Now, what's even cooler, we're using Moralis Streams to get live updates on this account. So if I open MetaMask right here, and on my account 1, I want to transfer some Guerli to account number 2. Let's say we're doing 1.5. If we hit next and then confirm, now this transaction is pending. Once it gets through, Firebase is going to pick this up, and we have synced our dapp with the Firebase, and we're going to get live feedback right here. And why this is so powerful is because you can build an application that gives you live updates on different transactions, whether it's on this application or other platforms. Now you can see right here, we have this transaction live once it happened. So let me show you how you can build this dapp. So we're going to build this application using Moralis Streams, and you need to have an account for that. So go to moralis.io and create your free account. From there, log in and get to your admin page. And here you're going to find your Web3 API that we're going to use. And also I'm going to show you how to set up this stream for a specific address to listen to. And everything will be hosted on Firebase. And right here we can see that the Guerli testnet is the collection I have created. And we have documents which includes every transaction. And from here we can see the block number, the block hash. We can see the gas price and also the value that happened, which was 1.5 Guerli ETH that we just did together. So how to make this happen? Create a Firebase account and create a new project. Mine is called Moralis Web3 Wallet Tracker. So from here, before we get started, make sure you upgrade from Sparks plan to Blaze plan, because we're going to use the Secret Manager API, which requires the Blaze plan. So you can just hit modify and go from this Spark to this Blaze, which is pay as you go. Now with initial testing, you won't have to pay with anything, but if your app gets lots of traction, you'd want to track your usage so you don't get any surprise costs. Now let's open our terminal and create a folder. Mine is called Moralis Firebase Web3 Tracker. And once you've done that, open the terminal inside that folder and run npm install -g firebase-tools. Now I have already done this, so I won't do it, but this will get your system set up with Firebase. And after you've done that, you can use Firebase login, and your terminal will prompt you to your browser where you can log in. I'm already logged in as joseph@moralis.io. Then we can initialize our Firebase project by running Firebase init hosting. And we're using hosting just if you want to host your website. From here, we're using an existing project. Mine is called Moralis Web3 Wallet Tracker. If you get this question right here, choose no and then hit enter. And for hosting, we have to set up the route. So let's create a frontend/build folder. No need to set up the single page app. And no, we don't want automatic builds with GitHub. And now your Firebase project is initialized here in our Moralis Firebase Web3 Tracker project. And we have our firebase.json file and also the frontend/build folder that we are later on going to replace with our Next.js app. For installing the Moralis Stream extension for Firebase, in the command line run Firebase ext:/install Moralis/Moralis-streams. For the first question, hit yes and continue, and then we can choose Iowa US Central. We will store our Moralis API key on the Google Cloud Secret Manager, so hit enter. And then we want to input our Moralis API key. You might face an error before this step, and that's because our project isn't initialized with the Secret Manager API key. So if you get that error, you're gonna see a link right here in the error description. Go to that link and you will have to enable that extension. Even if it is enabled, make sure you disable it first, wait a few minutes, enable it, then wait a few minutes more, and then run this command once again. And once you get to this step, now is where we want to add our Moralis API key. And for that, we have to go to moralis.io, create your free account, log into your admin page, go to Web3 APIs, and make sure you copy this API key. Now this will be hidden, but if you paste it in, you will see that this moves a little bit. So hit enter, and that's as easy as that. Now we have created the extensions folder in our project. Let's deploy it to our actual Firebase project by running Firebase deploy -- only extensions. Now press yes to continue, and this will just make sure that it's verifying the secret params for Moralis Streams. Now we will have to use our Moralis API key once again. So go to your moralis.io admin page in Web3 APIs and copy your API key. Back in the terminal, paste it in even though it's hidden, and hit enter. Now this is gonna take some time to be set up, so we can actually track and follow this progress by going to build and extensions in Firebase. And from here we can see this round progress bar tracking it, how much time it will take. It says it should take about 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm gonna get back to you once this is done. So this is done. Let's open up the extension and go to how this works. And in here we have a set of rules for our Firestorm to only allow our extensions to update the Firestorm with new events. So go ahead and copy this set of rules and go to build and to Firestore database. Now I have already created my database. If you haven't, go on and create a new one. You can start in test mode, hit next, and then click enable. So once you've done that, go to rules and paste our new set of rules right here and then hit publish. Now what's cool here is on the left side, you can see the different steps we've taken so you can track the history. Now go back to data right here. This is right now an empty database, but once we've set up streams, we're going to start seeing this database be populated with data. So the last thing I want you to do in Firebase admin dashboard is to go to build and go to functions. Now right here we have this Moralis hook that we're going to use. So make sure you copy this from here. Let's go to our Moralis admin dashboard and then go to streams. Hit create new stream. We're gonna do it with from admin. Click next, click done, and let's paste our webhook URL right in here. So let's start by adding a description to make it easier for us in the Moralis dashboard to see which stream we're using. So I'm gonna call mine for Guerli Web3 Firebase tracker. And the tag is also important because that's what you're gonna see on the Firebase side in your database. So it's easier to distinguish which is which. So I'm gonna call this for Guerli testnet. And in here, we can paste the wallet address that we want to monitor. Now then let's select the networks that we are interested in. For our case, it will only be ETH Guerli, but you could choose multiple chains if you wanted to, such as the mainnet or Polygon Mumbai. Now we're not gonna need those, so let's disable that. And let's go ahead and select which sort of activity we're interested in, which is native transactions. We'll look at this part of the activity, but you could look at contract interactions or internal transactions as well. Now that's it for this. Create stream, and you should see it on your Moralis dashboard in just a few seconds. Now let's go back to Firebase and to our Firestore database, and let's open up MetaMask to do our first transaction. I'm gonna send some Guerli ETH to account 2, let's say 0.3, hit next and confirm. Now this might take a few seconds, but it's good to know that for the first transaction to show up right here, we will need to update this page because it will initialize the database for you, and you should see a Moralis database with our document. So let's hit update right here. And there we have it, the transaction, our Guerli testnet the tag we put in our Moralis dashboard, and this document, which is our transaction. You can see the from address, and if you go to the bottom, you can see the value that is 0.3 Guerli ETH. Now this is super cool, and we will add this to our application. So let's jump straight into the code. I have created a backend folder which is empty for now, so let's cd into that one and run npm init-y. This will create a package.json folder. Now let's install some dependencies that we will use later on, which are course.env, express, and Moralis. Once it is installed, let's go back one step, and then let's also remove this front-end build folder that we created from earlier. And instead, let's create our Next.js app. Mine is gonna be called frontend. We're not gonna use TypeScript or ESLint. Great, now let's cd into the frontend app instead. And in here, we want to install a few dependencies as well. These are the dependencies we want to install. So Firebase and Firestore, because that's what we're gonna use for hosting. Axios, because we want to do a fetch request to our backend. RainbowKit for connecting our wallet, and WagMe so we can use the hooks that they provide. So hit enter and come back once you're done. While the dependencies were installing, I took my time to add the code both in backend and in the frontend folder, and we're going to go through them both. I just want to remind you that if you have any questions along the way, just make sure you post them in the comments below, and I will make sure to jump in there and help you out as much as possible. So let's start with backend and with package.json. So these 4 dependencies are the ones we just installed, and you will also have to add a start script so you can run your application. Now, make sure you go to moralis.io and take your API key and store it in a .env variable. Then create this index.js file. And from here, we need to require both Express and then set up our Express server on port 5001 for my case. Then we require Moralis, course, and also .env. Now, once we've done that, we can use our env variable, which is our API key like this, store it in a new const, and then at the bottom, we run the start function provided by Moralis and pass along the parameter API key. And at the same time, we start listening to our port, which means our server now is up and running. Now for this case, we only need one endpoint because we're going to use the get wallet token transfers endpoint from the Moralis. So the get TXS, get transactions endpoint is what we have created. And the idea behind this is that our front end will make a fetch request to this endpoint. And once that happened, our backend server will make a request to this endpoint provided by Moralis and EVM API. So for this endpoint to happen, we need to pass along two parameters, the address and the chain, and we're gonna get those params from our front end. So once the response is coming back from Moralis API, we send that as it is to the front end, and from there we destruct that object. I will show you how it looks like before we display it on screen. So that's it about the backend folder. So let's jump instead to the front end and start with package.json as well. Here we have the dependencies that we installed and some that got installed with the Next.js installation. So in our app, we have our index.js as the home page. Now, we are using a few of the WAGMI hooks in order for us to be able to extract the address that is connected. Besides that, we also want to display the login or the connect button if you're not connected, and we don't want to show that if you are connected. So that's why we, within this use effect, we do some logic so we can track if the user is connected or not. And if they aren't, we're gonna show the connect button. But if they are connected, we're gonna show this logged in component, which is the one right here. So within this one, we have copied some of the Firebase settings that we need, our config, for example, and then we have also required or imported some of the functionality that we're going to use in order for the streams to be able to work. Now, before we get into the streams, let's actually continue with the API call for the get transactions first, and then jump straight into this file again. So within the logged in component, further down right here, we are rendering this get transaction component, which is where the API request is happening. So right here, we are extracting the address that is connected using the use account hook provided by WAGMI. And then we also import Axios because we're gonna use this lib to make our get request to our server on port 5001/get transactions endpoint. And along with that, we need to pass the address and the chain ID as parameters. Now, once we get the response back, we're console logging it right here, and I will show you how it looks like. But at the same time, we have this transactions state, and then it's set function that we use to set the state and pass along this data right here. Now, once we've done that, we can actually map through the data and extract the values that we want to display. In our case, we have time and block number. We're doing some format to make it look better. And then we have the from and to address and also the transaction hash. Let me first show you how the response looks like once we're getting it back. So let's remove data and results from here and hit save. And in the browser, if I open the inspector console, we can see this object right here. And this is the response we're getting back. Now we only want data and the results, which is an array of objects. Each object is one transaction. And there we have the data that we display. So this is very clean and simple response we're getting back from the Moralis API, which makes our job much, much easier. Now let's go back into the code and let's focus on the streams instead, right here in the logged in component. As we saw before, we're importing some functionality using the dependencies we installed previously. And we need to have this Firebase config, which we're getting from Firebase when we are creating our web app. So if you haven't done that, go back to Firebase to project overview. I have already created mine, but if you haven't, go to add app and choose web. Now, once you've done that, you will choose the naming. I decided to call mine for just testing. And then you will have this view right here once you've done that. Now make sure you copy this part right here. That's what we're gonna need. Go back and paste it in like this. With this configuration, we can create a use effect hook and in here start listening to the Goerli testnet collection and track the updates once they're happening, and then update our stream state. When we're doing that, the same time as before, we can map through this array and then display the data that we want to show. And if you want to show more than the from, the to, and the value, you can go back into our database right here. Inside this collection, you can open up a document which is a transaction and see what you're getting. Now you could display all this if you wanted to, just make it easy and beautiful, and that's it. One more time, let me demonstrate how this works. So if we go back to the application and open up MetaMask, let's do a transaction from our account 2, send some girly ETH to my account 1. Let's send 2.3, hit next, confirm. Now once this is done, while we are waiting, you can see how easy it is to use both Moralis API and Moralis Streams, along with, for example, Next.js and Firebase to create this amazing dapp. And in live time, we can track the transactions that are happening for a specific wallet. In our case, I used RainbowKit to connect and extract the connected wallet's address and track that one. But you can easily input an input field for people to add an address and track that specific one if they don't want to authenticate themselves with their MetaMask. And there we have the latest stream. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. As always, I will share this GitHub repo below this video. Make sure you comment your questions. I will jump in there and help you out. And if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and I hope I will see you in the next one.